What happens when a hazardous substance is discovered inside one of the busiest hospitals in Boston? A routine day at Massachusetts General Hospital suddenly turns into a hazmat response after a mercury spill prompts emergency crews to take action. The incident raises immediate questions. Where did the mercury come from? Was anyone exposed? How did hospital staff respond? And what happens when a potentially dangerous material is discovered in a medical facility? Introduction. In this video, we're taking a closer look at the reported mercury spill at Massachusetts General Hospital, the emergency response that followed, and why even a relatively contained hazardous material incident can require carefully coordinated procedures inside a major hospital. Mercury is a toxic metal that can pose health and environmental risks, particularly when it is spilled and produces potentially harmful vapor. That makes the location of this incident especially significant. A hospital already has patients, medical personnel, visitors, equipment, and tightly controlled clinical areas that responders must consider. Rather than focusing on speculation, this video will walk through what is publicly known, explain why hazmat crews may be called to a mercury spill, and examine the broader safety lessons that can come from an incident like this. Begin by establishing the basic timeline of the reported incident. Explain when the mercury spill was discovered, where within the hospital it reportedly occurred, and how hospital personnel became aware that a hazardous substance was involved. Discuss how emergency situations inside a major medical center can develop quickly. A spill that might appear small can still require professional assessment because mercury can spread into difficult-to-clean areas and may release vapor. Emphasize the distinction between the discovery of a hazardous material and evidence of widespread exposure. The presence of mercury does not automatically mean that patients or staff were seriously harmed. Explain that responders first need to determine the location and approximate extent of the spill before deciding what containment and cleanup measures are necessary. Explain what mercury is and why spills involving elemental mercury can be treated as hazardous material incidents. Discuss how mercury behaves when released. Unlike many liquids, mercury forms small droplets that can separate and travel into cracks, seams, flooring, or other hard-to-reach spaces. Explain the concerns surrounding mercury vapor and why simply wiping up visible droplets may not be an appropriate response. This section should also explain why trained hazmat personnel use specialized procedures and equipment rather than allowing untrained individuals to handle the substance. Make the explanation accessible to viewers. The important issue is not simply that mercury looks unusual, but that improper handling can make contamination harder to control. Move into the emergency response itself. Describe how hazmat teams generally approach a mercury spill, securing the affected area, limiting access, assessing contamination, identifying potential exposure pathways, and determining how the material can be safely collected and removed. Discuss the importance of preventing people from accidentally spreading mercury to other parts of a facility. Explain the coordination that may be required between hospital administrators, clinical personnel, emergency responders, environmental or hazardous material specialists, and other authorities. Highlight the unique challenge of responding to an incident inside a hospital. Responders cannot simply treat the building as an empty structure. They must consider patients who may be medically fragile, staff who need access to critical areas, and hospital operations that may need to continue. Explore how hospitals prepare for unexpected hazards. Explain that hospitals routinely deal with emergencies, but hazardous material incidents require a different layer of planning. Discuss possible priorities such as isolating the affected location, controlling movement around the area, protecting patients and employees, and maintaining essential medical services. Explain how emergency responders may establish controlled zones around contaminated areas. This is also an opportunity to remind viewers that emergency procedures can look dramatic from the outside, while actually representing a carefully organized effort to prevent a situation from becoming larger. Address one of the biggest questions viewers are likely to have: whether anyone was exposed or injured. Separate confirmed information from assumptions. If authorities or hospital officials have released information about injuries, exposure assessments, evacuations, or treatment, present those facts clearly. If no evidence of significant exposure has been publicly confirmed, say so rather than suggesting that exposure occurred. Explain that emergency responders may take precautionary measures even when there is no evidence of widespread harm. Testing, isolation, and professional cleanup can be designed to prevent potential exposure rather than respond to confirmed poisoning. Discuss why an incident like this attracts public attention. Massachusetts General Hospital is a major medical institution, meaning even a localized hazardous material response can become a significant news story. Explain the public's natural concern when words such as Mercury, spill, and hazmat appear in the same report. At the same time, emphasize the importance of avoiding sensationalism. A hazmat response is evidence that safety procedures are being taken seriously. It is not automatically evidence of a large-scale disaster. Discuss how responsible reporting should focus on verified details, the size and location of the incident, the response, and whether officials identified any injuries or exposures. Use the incident to discuss broader lessons about hazardous materials. Explain why organizations that use or encounter hazardous substances need clear reporting procedures, trained personnel, emergency plans, and appropriate cleanup protocols. For hospitals, these precautions are particularly important because so many people with different levels of vulnerability may be inside the building at any given time. Discuss how quick identification and containment can prevent a localized problem from becoming a much larger incident. The key lesson is that preparedness matters. Emergency crews may be called not because a catastrophe has already occurred, but because professionals want to prevent one from happening. Recap the confirmed information about the Mercury spill and hazmat response. Then clearly identify details that remain unavailable or unconfirmed. This section should reinforce the documentary approach of the video. Viewers deserve accurate information rather than speculation. Ask the audience to consider how emergency responders balance speed, caution, patient safety, and hospital operations when dealing with hazardous materials. A mercury spill inside a major hospital is the kind of incident that can immediately raise alarm, but the response itself tells an important story about emergency preparedness. When hazardous material is discovered, trained responders can isolate the area, assess the risk, and take steps designed to protect patients, staff, and the surrounding community. The most important questions are always what actually happened, whether anyone was exposed or injured, how quickly the situation was contained, and what officials ultimately determine about the incident. As more verified information becomes available, those facts, not speculation, will provide the clearest picture of what happened at Massachusetts General Hospital. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.